All right.
Sure.
Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, taking care of business today with Don Kottick, who is president and CEO of Sotheby's International Realty Canada. Thanks, Don, for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Mario. Thanks for having me back. Great to see you.
Okay, we're going to talk about your firm's top tier end of year real estate report, looking at the luxury market in Canada in 2024. What are the main things that you noticed that resonated with you from this report?
Well, if we look at the entire year, there were quite a bit of headwinds that had impacted the market. We had political turmoil, we had economic uncertainty, we had the rising cost of living, increased, housing taxes, regulatory restrictions on building new developments, and then we also coupled with that the rising inventory levels. Now, those are the headwinds, and the key drivers really were population growth, right? We've talked about that a number of times. We've experienced record population growth over the last number of years, so that has played a large role in many of the markets across the country. We have the declining interest rates. And then we have this continual buy-up, pent-up demand that still exists. And all this translated into really a stabilized, luxury top-tier real estate market across Canada. And we believe that will drive a lot of the activity going into 2025.
Hmm.
Along with that, it'll create opportunities for buyers, I think, in 2025 as well, too.
Yeah, what did prices do in that upper end this past year?
Well, we saw some gradual declines, and we saw, some stabilization depending on the different markets. But all in all, I think the activity was such that it didn't really drive up prices any higher than we had seen in prior years.
And when you're looking at the different markets, I understand the Greater Toronto area was particularly strong this past year, right?
Yeah, and I would say the key driver in the Toronto market would really have been the population expansion. That's probably really is what drove that particular market. Despite a slow start to 2024, we started to see plenty of high-end activity, especially over the $4 million, and that we also noticed that the momentum tended to pick up in kind of the second half of 2024, and that continued on for the balance of the year.
Oh, okay, that. Don, as we look into 2025, I know it's an uncertain year in Canada from a political standpoint. Obviously, we don't know who the prime minister is going to be, maybe as early as this spring. We don't know when an election's going to be. Like, what is that political instability do for the marketplace in real estate in Canada, particularly at this upper end?
Well, I think, you just have to kind of look at what the market perception is. The market perception is really there is going to be a change. And I think most people would view that positively. Case in point, when Trudeau announced his resignation, the dollar got stronger. People feel strongly that the polls are leading towards probably a government that's going to be more fiscally responsible. I think that bodes well for where we are heading into 2025. Then you also have the U.S. factor. Obviously the incoming U.S. President Trump has announced that or talked about the potential for tariffs. He's done it in the past. He hasn't brought them forward. But a lot of that tends to be based on his relationship with the outgoing Trudeau. And so I think if we have a strong candidate that steps in, is able to work with Trump, I believe that we may see a much better working relationship with the US and an easing of all of this discussion of tariffs. Obviously, nobody has a crystal ball, but I think if things go according to the way the market market perceives things, that will become a non-entity. Now, on the other side, because there is some uncertainty even in the US, Canada has historically been a safe haven. So when people are, uncertain of what's going on anywhere in the world, we've always been recognized as that safe haven. Obviously, that's been undermined probably in the last couple of years, but I think if people feel that there's going to be a government change, we could see a return to our status as a welcoming safe haven for people internationally.
And when you look at the market overall, Don, what do you look at in terms of the buyers of who are they? Like, who are these people that are buying these properties in the $1 million plus category?
Well, it's interesting. Right now, we're still subject to the foreign buyer ban.
Yeah,
So a lot of the market activity we've kind of been tracking tends to be local. A lot of the luxury, especially like in Vancouver, people are saying, "Well, who's buying?" Well, it tends to be more locally driven. In Alberta right now, there is the interprovincial migration that is having a very strong kind of presence in that market. We also have interprovincial migration happening in Ontario as well too, and to a lesser degree in the Montreal market, and probably a lesser degree in British Columbia at this point in time. But I think all in all, our kind of information has been pointing to most of the buyers in the ultra luxury space tend to be local.
yeah. And one last thing, Don, when you're looking at a healthy, top tier market, what kind of impact does that have on the rest of the real estate market when the luxury market is strong?
Well, I think that once again, the market is a spectrum. You have your conventional market, then you have your luxury market, and then you have your ultra luxury market. So a strong market in one particular category always has a positive impact on the other areas. So when there's inventory moving in the luxury, then there's more opportunity for the conventional market to move into that space if they got the means to do so. So it's very integrated, and so a strong luxury market bodes well, for everybody on the housing spectrum.
All right. Thanks, Don, for joining us today.
My pleasure, Mario. Always great to see you.
All right. That was Don Kottick, who is president and CEO of Sotheby's International Realty Canada. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast. Thanks for joining us today.